This is Chris and welcome back to the channel. Got a quick video for you guys today. I'm going to go over how I determine my cook kits for the backpacking trips that I take. The different components that I select from and some of the qualities of each of the cook kits that I currently have. So stay tuned, let's get right into it. So what makes a great cook kit? A cook kit in my mind is comprised of three things. It's a vessel or something as simple as a cup, paired with some type of stove or heating element to heat your food or your water, and then some sort of utensil so you can actually eat. As you can see, I've really gathered a lot of cook kits over the time that I've been backpacking, and they continue to evolve. My cook kits change based on where I'm going, the type of cooking that I'm planning to do. Am I going solo or am I bringing a friend? Do I want to dry bake? Those are all great questions. I'm going to dive into a couple of the cook kits that I use pretty frequently, and these are just things that work for me. This isn't the end-all be-all on cook kits, but there's a couple of factors that come into play. As you know, with most backpacking gear, it is expensive or can be expensive, or it doesn't. And those factors really dictate what type of kit you end up with. As far as weight, materials, ease of use. I'll go dive into that in a little bit. So for me, after I've decided where I'm going on my backpacking trip and if I'm going alone or with a buddy, I'll sit down and I will decide what type of cooking I'm planning on doing. Am I going to actually do some physical cooking, whether it be rice sides or trying to boil some mashed potatoes? Am I going to make ramen? Or am I going to stick with a prepackaged meal to where I've actually only got to boil 2 cups of water? So, as you can see, I've got a lot of different options. I use these pots and / cups for backpacking, car camping, and when I bring along a lot of extra people, having this many different cups does come in handy. After I've selected my pot that I'm taking on my trip, I next need to choose a stove, something that can either boil my water, reconstitute mashed potatoes, boil ramen, things of that nature. So with a lot of my cook kits, I actually use denatured alcohol, or you can use the heat, or you can use Esbit. Some of these stoves are really handy because the fuel is pretty readily available. I know heat's available in most gas stations, auto parts stores. Esbit's a little bit harder to find. I usually kind of stock up on the cubes when they're on sale and kind of keep them handy. I like to dry bake on the trail, and I'll use an Esbit cube typically for dry baking. So some of these cook kits you'll see in front of me here, it's basically the pot kind of goes with the stove. I mean, you can also use the pot with a canister stove in different configurations, but this is actually how I purchased these three kits. Were actually purchased as a whole kit, meaning the pot went with the matching windscreen in that type of configuration. So this, for my 1.3 liter Evernew kit, I purchased this through Trail Designs. They actually make the titanium sidewinder cone that the pot rests on, and it just sits right on top of there. And when you're done using it, most of these cones actually will coil up, and it comes with its own sleeve. Coil it up, and it has its own packing sleeve that you can slide it into. And in the case of this titanium sidewinder cone, it actually packs right into the pot for storage. This other kit is actually more of a solo kit. This actually came from Flat Cat Gear. I actually bought it as part of a kit, and I predominantly use it for boiling water or solo dry baking when I'm on the trail. It comes with its own, as part of the kit, a hard anodized aluminum baking dish that seats right inside. So I'll be doing a separate video on dry baking on the trail for groups and then for solo. But yeah, this is a really nice little kit. I've actually been using this a lot as of lately and from last fall. And I hope to use it this spring too. But again, it's very compact. I can either use it with an alcohol stove underneath, or I can use it with the titanium Epicurean stove that burns Esbit. A lot of different versatility. And let's just say I went out on the trail and I didn't want to have to mess with Esbit cubes or alcohol. And honestly, I didn't want to really have to bring that windscreen. I could actually use this in conjunction with pretty much any canister stove. And boil my 2 cups of water and have my beverage. So, I mean, it's pretty versatile. I mean, if you really think about it, you can kind of mix and match if you've got a couple of things based on what you're doing. And then this kit was by Zelf. He is actually a stove manufacturer, or I'll call him a hobbyist, not trying to knock him down at all, but he actually makes some great stove kits and alcohol stoves. I'd probably Google him out there. Zelf Stoveworks, I believe, is his website. But he was offering these Toaks 550 mugs with a ridge along the pot. It's very neat how he does that. He puts the ridge on the pot, and he offered it with this cone design, and it just sits right on top of the cone. So, yeah, really neat. I've used this a handful of times as well. It is a small pot. I mean, it looks pretty small. It's like probably coffee cup size, 550 milliliters, but yeah, you can boil ramen noodles in this, and it certainly will boil water for you, and it's super compact. I believe this whole kit came with the cone, the pot, and the small little alcohol stove burner. I believe it holds an ounce or 2 of alcohol in there, and it holds it in suspension, and then it has a cap on top. So yeah, pretty handy. Definitely a cool little piece of kit. And same thing, this cone, I believe, was also made to coil up. And that has its own sleeve as well. Very cool little piece of kit. Just another quick note, I've also have the Evernew titanium alcohol burner. It's worked really well for me. Some of the reviews you'll probably see on YouTube. It is an alcohol beast, and it does burn it up pretty quick. So, not the most efficient alcohol stove, but it's what I've had and what I've got for quite a while, and I just use what I've got. There are other stoves that are probably more efficient out there. You'll have to do some looking around. Certainly a lot of cottage alcohol stove makers out there in the market that are really producing some really interesting stoves. I encourage you to check that out. But for me, I got this because A, I like titanium, and 2, the simplicity of just filling the burner with denatured alcohol, lighting it, and then you've got your pot support. I mean, truly, this in and of itself, combined with a pot, I mean, any size pot, you know, it may not be the most efficient setup, but it'll certainly get the job done. I mean, you probably want to bring a windscreen. I normally typically do if I'm running in this configuration. Another thing that also works well on top of this burner stand is a fry pan, which I've used several times. So that, and either kind of make like a windscreen out of rocks or bring your own dedicated windscreen. It actually works quite well. And then the Epicurean titanium stove. I think this is one of the earlier models that John at Flat Cat Deer made. I don't think they make this specific one anymore, but they do make a newer version of it. I have the original, and it's worked just fine for me. One Esbit tab typically does a muffin or a biscuit on the trail with no problem. It's kind of cool. It actually has, if you notice, ridges on the top, and then it's flat on the bottom. So depending on the way you choose to orientate the burner shroud, I'll call it, or the Esbit shroud, it basically dictates how high you're wanting the heat to get. If it's with the ridges on the bottom, there's more air holes along the bottom near the base of what would be the Esbit cube in there. Thus you have more oxygen getting pulled in, and then you'll have a hotter burn. Typically I normally use it with the flat side down, so basically it slows the burn of the Esbit cube, which brings the temperature right in line to where we need it for dry baking. So yeah, definitely a lot of different options here depending on what you want to utilize on the trail. I encourage you guys to kind of take a look and find out what works best for you. Oh, last but not least, almost forgot, the Jetboil. And I know it is a completely integrated system, so there really isn't much substitution of what you can choose to bring with the Jetboil. And that may be actually beneficial for a lot of people who are just starting out. From a cost perspective, I think I got this on sale at REI when they had it on sale for like $83, which was significantly less. I think they were going for $130 when they were first released. But it's a fully integrated cook kit. I mean, if you're just starting out, it's got everything you need to make a meal, a hot meal, and it does it really fast. I mean, it's even got a cup or a bowl on the bottom. I've made ramen noodles, everything inside the pot. I use part of a pack towel to wrap my burner so it doesn't scratch up the inside of my pot, but I have the pot support in here as well. So again, you can also, like I mentioned in my earlier Jetboil fry pan video, you can buy the optional Jetboil pot support that goes in here if you really wanted to. And then you could, in theory, use these additional pots that you already own or pans that you already own. So it really depends on what you want to do. I personally like to use the Minimo burner with the actual Jetboil pot. It's just a system that is made to work together, and in my opinion it works very well together. I get under 2-minute boil times for 2 cups of water, and it'll boil water all day long or until you run out of fuel. So yeah, definitely a good starting option. If you're just starting out, you can get a good deal. I know at the time of this video, today is what, Friday the 8th, I just received my REI dividend check, so I mean that's definitely something to consider. And I know they usually run like a 20% off coupon shortly after the dividends are sent out to the customer, so you probably can get a really good deal on this kit here, and you could be set to go. Just one integrated solution, especially if you're starting out. I mean, it's gonna boil water pretty efficiently. You're not gonna have to mess with any alcohol or Esbit. Sometimes those things are finicky, and depending on your weather conditions, you may want to bring something that is going to boil reliably, whereas some of these stoves you're going to have to prime. And then in colder conditions, then depending on how cold it is, you may not even want a canister stove or alcohol. You may actually want to go something like white gas. I've got a Primus, I believe it's a OmniLite TI. It's white gas, and it also runs on canisters too. I don't have that out, but I have that available if I'm going to be taking some cold trips where regular canister fuel or alcohol is not going to be the most efficient. So just a few things to consider. Yeah, I would definitely take a look out there and find out what you'd like to start with. And again, budget dictates most things in life. Yeah, and this is certainly no exception. So yeah, I would definitely take a look. If you can find some good deals out there, I mean, that's a good place to start. Next up, we've got canister stoves. Canister stoves are by far probably one of the more popular backpacking stove options out there, mainly because of cost, and then I'm guessing probably ease of use. As canister stove implies, most of the stoves that are sold just screw right on top of these canisters. Make sure that's off. They screw right on top of the canister, and you're good to go. You just have to open the valve, light it, and you're boiling or cooking away. I've got a few different options of canister stove that I've gotten over time. Most recently is the Snow Peak Light Max here. It's made out of titanium. Not the lightest stove on the market, but I think I got it as a gift and it works extremely well for my needs. It's not the most stable, but if you're just boiling 2 cups of water and you're kind of keeping an eye on things, it works relatively well and it boils decently fast. I've also have the Snow Peak Gigapower stove as well, without the piezo ignition lighter on it, so you'll need to carry some kind of lighter. That also works well too. It's nice. I have a couple of stoves, so if friends need to borrow some gear or we're going together, I can always let them borrow a stove. And the good thing about that is when it comes time in the end of the night, I'm sure as most of you know when you're backpacking, when you're done for the day and you want to get set up, all you can think about is eating. So the last thing you want to do is when it comes time to boil your water for your meal is that your buddy's using your stove and taking his sweet time. So yeah, not terribly expensive. I mean, they vary in cost. I believe the Gigapower the Gigapower was about $29. I think I got it on sale, but I think originally they're like $39. The Light Max is typically $49, but you can sometimes find it on sale for $39. And when I first started backpacking, this was the canister stove that I started with way back in the day. This is the original MSR Pocket Rocket, and still works to this day. I've done so much cooking on this stove. I've boiled water, I fried on it. I think my friends and we actually roasted hot dogs over it at some point, which may explain why it's still semi-greasy. But nevertheless, yeah, I mean, I believe this was probably $30 at the time. These hard cases are nice. I mean, it's a small weight penalty, but it also keeps the stove protected, and it also keeps kind of stove soot, gunk, and whatnot from getting on the rest of your gear in your pack. So, as I mentioned also too, the Jetboil, it's a integrated cook system, so the burner is mated with the pot. But I think by far, as far as boil times, the Jetboil is the fastest. And basically that's why you want a canister stove. You want to boil water quickly and conveniently. You want to get your meal rehydrated. You want to get that hot cup of tea or hot cup of coffee. And you don't want to wait for an alcohol stove to bloom. You don't want to have to wait for it to boil. You don't want to have to try to light a Nesbit cube and wait. So basically convenience and ease of use, I think, is a huge seller for canister stoves. And these are just some of the options. More cost-effective option if you're starting out, and you don't want to go the Jetboil route, and you don't want to make the investment into some of these stoves because you're just starting out. You don't even know if you're going to like backpacking. Check out Amazon. I know that there's quite a few different canister stoves available. I think E-Tech City, there's a stove for $12.99 with great reviews. I believe if you want something a little bit nicer, there's the BRS 3000T. It's made out of titanium. Super light, small, I believe it's sub 2 ounces. I'll have to leave a link for it in the description, but that seems to be a very popular stove as well. So kind of take a look around out there. You can find some really good deals, especially at different holiday times of the year. Right now it's March, so we don't really have a holiday coming up. But usually any type of major holiday, if you check a lot of the gear retailers online, they'll typically have some pretty good sales or 20% off coupons or free shipping. I like to look for the 20% off coupon, free shipping, and I also look for those retailers that also don't charge sales tax, since I live in California and everything has sales tax. So, hope that gives you an idea on some of the canister stoves that are available. Like I said, I'll be leaving links for everything that I've mentioned in the video today in the description below. So you can feel free to navigate out there and kind of do your own research and figure out what works for you. Last but certainly not least are utensils. This is truly, I feel, one of the more personal preference piece of cook kit gear that I think is out there. So after you've decided on your pot and your stove, or an integrated cook kit like a Jetboil or MSR wind burner, lastly, you've got your food cooked, you've boiled your water, it's already rehydrated, it's time to eat. You'll need some type of utensil to accomplish that feat. So there's a lot of different options. You can probably grab a fork or a spoon right out of your kitchen drawer, take it with you on your backpacking trip if you're just starting out. That's probably the best no-cost option there is out there. One cool no-cost option that I just recently discovered is my local Nuyo. I don't know if you guys have that where you are, but I'm in Northern California. Nuyo is a frozen yogurt chain. They offer these free semi-rigid plastic spoons. So this may be good. I mean, if you're gonna go have frozen yogurt anyways, I kind of keep a couple extra around. They're really cool. I mean, I don't know how long they're necessarily gonna last. You know, maybe one outing if you take care of it and are pretty careful. The flip side of that is you look for a dedicated either folding or long-handled spoon or fork. As you can tell, most of these, the two spoons here and the fork that I have are long-handled. That comes in particularly handy, especially the spoons, if you're trying to get into the bottoms and the corners of our dehydrated meals. Those pouches are typically pretty deep, and you definitely want to have something longhand to prevent food from getting all over your fingers and the such. The collapsibility factor, this is actually a Snow Peak foldable titanium spoon, and this is the foldable fork. I got these probably a little bit over a year ago. I was just intrigued at the folding mechanism, and it does work pretty well, and it really provides you that long-handled utensil experience while being very compact. It folds up and it fits into most of my cook kits, so it nests right inside the pot. So as far as packability is concerned, that's not an issue. When I first started, well, not necessarily first started, but when I first got into backpacking, I knew that I enjoyed it. I picked up one of the Sea to Summit titanium long-handled spoons, which I believe are similarly, I know Tokes makes one, but it has a polished bowl at the end, which kind of gives it a better, I guess, mouth feel when you're putting the food into your mouth. I have no problem with this. This is titanium. I know they make an aluminum version as well, Sea to Summit. But yeah, it works really well, gets the job done. Again, you know, I'm at a point gear-wise where I can let a friend borrow a spoon or, you know, different pieces of gear that they may not have, and, you know, maybe that gets them into backpacking, who knows, and then they're going to branch out and get their own utensils. But yeah, and then lastly, I do like to make noodles and ramen on the trail, and even when you're frying things or just moving things around in a frying pan or on a grill, it's handy to have a pair of chopsticks. I have a pair of titanium chopsticks somewhere. I can't seem to find them, but I just pulled this bamboo set out of my kitchen drawer, and I wouldn't hesitate on bringing this out on a backpacking trip as well if I was doing some more of that intensive cooking, or if I wanted to just have my noodles with a pair of chopsticks. It certainly is very versatile and can come in handy on the trail. So that kind of wraps up utensils. I'll leave links for some of these in the description below, sans the free frozen yogurt place spoon. I'm sure if you look around, there's probably a lot of other free options that you can exercise to if, you know, you're just getting started, like I said. For those seasoned backpackers out there, yeah, definitely look into something that's, you know, foldable, titanium, certainly long-handled. It'll serve you well, and it's virtually indestructible, barring any type of catastrophe. Once you have your cook kit all put together, you're going to need to package it in some way for the trail and your pack. A lot of the pots that when you purchase them, if you purchase a pot separately that isn't an integrated cook kit, companies like Evernew and Tokes, they actually ship their pots or cups, depending on what size you buy, with a supplied mesh stuff sack. These are great, but there are a few downsides, one being it's mesh, so if you're using your pot over a fire or putting it down in the dirt, it's going to get dirty. The pot's going to be dirty, the mesh sack's going to get dirty, anything that's sticky or greasy is going to seep onto the mesh and probably all over the stuff in your pack. But it comes with it, and it works. I mean, if you're just boiling water, I don't see it being a problem. If you're like me and you want to keep things contained, these are DCF Dyneema stuff sack, and they're specifically cut for various different sizes of pots or mugs. I believe I got these two stuff sacks from zpacks.com. You can order them. I'm not sure if you have a choice on color, so they'll either send you green or sometimes blue. But the good thing about these are pretty, the material itself is pretty water resistant. And the good thing is it keeps everything inside the stuff sack. So if you have some pot that does have soot on it, something a little greasy or dirty, you can just put it in here, cinch it up, and put it in your pack. And then when you get home, you can just clean out everything, obviously. But I think they do a pretty good job of just kind of keeping the pack organized and clean. They are a little pricey. That is the downside about DCF Dyneema. Yeah, I mean, if you're truly committed to backpacking and you have some inclination for light or ultralight backpacking, you're probably familiar with DCF Dyneema, formerly known as cookkit fiber. You guys found this video informative, and so you can make your own decisions on the type of components that you need to build your ideal cook kit. Some of the cook kits that I've got and the way that I use those cook kits work for me. They may or may not work for you, but I hope the video gave you some insight as far as some of the different components you can use to create your ideal cook kit. I want to thank you guys for watching. Feel free to like, comment, and if you are so inclined, feel free to subscribe for more content similar to this. Until the next video, you guys take care. See you soon.